you, it's time for a sweet treat. I made lemon butter about a month ago. You just take a load of these, mix it with sugar and butter, blend it, and you end up with a nice little spread. After the success of smearing it on the ginger snaps, I thought, what else can I use it on? What else could I bake the lemon butter on top of? And I've decided to have a go at a millefeuille. This is a layered kind of dessert, and if my French is right, it means 1,000 layers. I'll be using puff pastry. I'm not doing 1,000 layers of anything. I'm going to use store-bought pastry because I'm lazy, but you can by all means make your own. The oven's on. I want that preheated to 200 degrees C, which is 400 Fahrenheit. It comes out very conveniently pre-rolled in a rectangle. Yay! I'm using a ruler to measure. You don't have to do that at all. I'm just trimming off the edges here just so it's a really nice sharp edge. I'm going to make each one 5 centimeters across, about 2.5 inches. And I'm having 3 layers. That's the plan. So pastry on the bottom, filling, pastry, filling, pastry. Cut that into the strips. I'll cut these strips in half now. I'm transferring the pastry pieces onto some baking parchment. I could have left it on here, but I'm just a bit worried that it's gonna, as it rises, as it puffs, that they just, you know, merge. I'm now gonna prick all over the pieces with a fork, and this helps the steam to escape so it doesn't puff up too much. I've got some more baking parchment, 2 layers of it. I'm putting that on the top. The instructions on the box said to do this as it helps weigh it down so it doesn't puff quite so much. I'll bake this for 15 minutes and have a look, probably checking halfway through. With the remainder, I've decided to make some snacks. So I'm going to brush on some whole grain mustard. You can be as precise or as sloppy as you like. I'm going for sloppy. I'm going to grate some vegan parmesan over the top of this. I use Violife brand. And then just slice it up however you want. And just move it around a little bit, give some space. Just sliding a baking tray underneath to make it a little bit easier. A bit easier to handle. These need a bit longer. They are very puffy. Got it on 180 now. I think that's just a bit too high. Said to have had another 5. I think they're about done. Give this cheesy ones another 5, I think. Transferring the pastry onto a cooling rack. I'm just going to see if I can get the lemon butter on at this stage or if it's too delicate. But, because I think doing it while it's hot, it will dry it out even more. I've brought the cheese pastries out. What I'm going to do now is just dry that butter out a bit on top, like I did with the ginger snap biscuits. These worked really good. I'm gonna let those cool in there for about, I don't know, an hour at least, and then start assembling everything. Hit subscribe and tap that bell icon if you enjoy watching me be surprised at the puffiness of puff pastry. The puffs have puffed rather a lot. Much more than I necessarily anticipated. So there certainly won't be about although maybe I'll stuff it. Just find a natural split in the middle, pull it apart. I now need to make some whipping cream to go inside those bad boys. And I'm gonna use chickpea water to do it. So this is aquafaba, and it's all it is water that's had chickpeas sitting in it. Forms structures like egg whites. I'm using a metal spoon for this because you need it to be as oil-free as you possibly can. I think oil disrupts the surface tension of the air bubbles. It's just a case of whizzing this up. I guess you can do it by hand. It'd probably be a great arm workout, to be fair, but I am not. I have a mixer. I'll blitz this up for about 3 or 4 minutes until it gets nice and foamy, and then start adding sugar in. I decided to do 1/8 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. See if that speeds up the process, because this is tedious already. That's the kind of stage we're at there, after a minute maybe. I'll now slowly add in some powdered sugar. That's 3/4 of a cup. I'll figure out the metric later. It's taken a while, but it's getting there. Look, look at that. So gloopy. At one point I didn't think it was going to happen because I noticed the bowl is a bit greasy. I almost binned it. I want to see what happens when I put something in it. And I have oat flour. It was lacking body. 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Well, the oats were a mistake, weren't they? That's going to be ice cream. Damn it. Change of plans. I'm making custard instead. This is 3/4 of a cup of milk, soy milk. I'm going to use the custard powder that I made for the jammy custards. I'll put the link up there. And because this has got glutinous rice flour in it, it'll stiffen up if I use more than you would for a custard. The quantities might vary for you because different nuts, different glutinous rice flours, everything all reacts differently. Just put some in, and if it's too much, put more milk in. If it's still liquid, put more powder. It's going to be like a creme pat kind of consistency. That's where we're at currently. A little bit of vanilla. I want butter in there as well. Because it's been one of those days. 1/2 teaspoon to a teaspoon of butter, vegan butter. The butter's in there to give it a bit of flavour, but also a nice mouthfeel. Kind of coats your tongue. Here's where it's at now, so you can see it's kind of holding its shape. Chilled down this stone roasting pan, just to get this to happen as fast as possible because I really need to sit down. And kind of move it around in there. It gets kind of... And put this in the freezer for a couple of minutes. Time to bite. Chuck some little raspberries in. Pop the lid on. Will it stay? I know. Give it some little nibbles. I'm actually pretty happy with that. Tasting time, I guess. The brightness from the raspberries goes very nicely with the kind of buttery flavour of the pastry. And then the lemons there, giving it a sharpness. That is super delicious. If you also enjoy putting fruit inside baked goods, make sure you hit subscribe, tap the bell icon, and you won't miss a single episode.